In the world of Django APIs, we've got a fascinating showdown happening. On one side, you have the long-reigning champion, and on the other, a new, super-fast challenger. Today, we're breaking down the clash between the established Django REST Framework and the modern powerhouse, Django Ninja. All right, let's get into it.
For like a really long time, since it came out back in 2011, the Django REST Framework, we all call it DRF, was the undisputed king. It's battle-tested, it's got everything you could possibly need, and honestly was just the way you build APIs with Django. You didn't even think twice. But then, the world of Python started to evolve. New features came along, especially something called type hints. And that cracked open the door for a completely different way of thinking about APIs. So what exactly was this big shift? Well, it really all comes down to a fundamental change in philosophy. We're talking about moving away from the old school method of defining all your data with these heavy framework-specific classes, and instead embracing a much cleaner, more modern approach using native Python types. And just take a look at this side by side. It says it all, right? On the left, you've got the DRF way with its class-based serializers. You see all that boilerplate? That's code you have to write just to tell the framework what you're doing. But then look to the right. With Ninja, it's just Python. Clean, standard, easy-to-read type hints. This isn't just about looking nicer, it's simpler, and your code editor already knows exactly what to do with it. So what's the magic behind Ninja's simplicity and its crazy speed? It's a library called Pydantic. Pydantic is the engine that takes those simple Python type hints and does all the heavy lifting, all the data validation and serialization for you. And here's the real kicker. Pydantic's core is actually written in Rust, which makes it incredibly fast at parsing data. And that performance boost? It's an absolute game changer. So let's look at the real-world benefits you get from Ninja's modern setup, focusing on pure speed and, maybe more importantly, how it handles a ton of users all at once. 20 to 30%. That's a pretty big number, right? But what does a 20 to 30% speed advantage actually mean when you're building an application? Well, this chart lays it all out. That number represents how much faster you can expect your basic database operations to be. The everyday stuff, creating, reading, updating, and deleting things. Because Ninja has so much less overhead, it's just consistently faster at these core tasks than DRF. But raw speed isn't the whole story, especially when your API gets really busy. Now here's something interesting about async support. A single request might not always be faster, but its real superpower is consistency. It gets rid of those random, super slow requests, what we call tail latency, that can clog up the whole system for everyone else. And here's how that magic works. Think of it like a super efficient waiter. When a request comes in that needs to wait for something, like fetching data from a database, an async server doesn't just stand there and wait. It says, okay, you're busy, puts that task on the back burner, and immediately goes to serve other requests. Then, as soon as that first task is done waiting, it picks it right back up. This way, a few slowpokes can't bring the entire restaurant to a halt. Okay, so we've seen the difference in philosophy and performance. Now let's put these two head-to-head and do a direct feature-by-feature comparison. This table really breaks it all down. For validation, Ninja's got that high-speed, Rust-powered Pydantic core, while DRF rolls its own. For documentation, this is a big one. Ninja generates it for you automatically from your code. That's a huge time saver. With DRF, that's usually a manual process. And finally, async support. It's built right into Ninja from the ground up, while with DRF, you need to bolt it on with other packages. So just to recap where all this speed comes from, this chart pulls it together perfectly. The biggest slice of the pie comes from Pydantic and its Rust core. Then you have the inherent efficiency of native async support. And finally, there's the simple fact that less framework code means less work for the server to do on every single request. Okay, so you might be thinking, this all sounds great, but is this new thing actually ready for prime time? Is it mature enough? That's a fair question. Let's take a look at Ninja's ecosystem and see how it's shaping up. How about this for a number? 10%. According to the 2025 State of Django survey, that's the slice of the developer pie that Django Ninja has already carved out for itself. This shows it's not some fringe experimental tool anymore. It's a mainstream, top-tier choice that a significant chunk of the community is already using and trusting. And the ecosystem around it is just exploding. You've got projects like Django Ninja Extra that add serious enterprise-level features. The super popular Wagtail CMS now has official guides for integrating with Ninja. Plus, there are tons of other community projects popping up all the time.
This is what a healthy, thriving platform looks like.
So, after looking at the philosophy, the performance, the features, and the ecosystem, what's the final verdict? Which one should you actually pick for your next project? Let's make this super simple. If you are starting a brand new project today, especially one that needs to be fast, handle lots of users, or just get built quickly, Django Ninja is pretty much a no-brainer. Now, if you're working on a huge old application that's already built entirely around DRF, it probably makes sense to stick with what you've got. But for everything new, the momentum is clearly, undeniably, with Ninja. And this all brings us to one last really fascinating question. With its modern Python approach, its incredible performance, and its rocketing adoption, are we just looking at another popular library? Or are we actually seeing the blueprint for the future of how we'll all build APIs in Django itself? I guess only time will tell.